Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of Candid Conversations with City Block. If you've been on this journey with us for the last 7 previous episodes, thank you so much for getting to know our clients and our communities a little bit better because we think it's really important. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, I'm Lindsay and I'm the founder of City Block.
And I'm Amanda, and I'm the Director of Content Strategy.
I'm Lexi, and I'm the Media and Marketing Associate.
All right, thank you. And as always, we are joined with one of our amazing clients and community members because we get to work with them day in and day out, and they're doing amazing work, just like Jared from Givable. And we believe the rest of the world should hear a little bit of their story as well. So Jared, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah. Jared's actually on the same floor as I am at Kobo, but just on different sides of the building. Jared, can you tell us a little bit more about Givable and also STL 50/50?
Yeah, so in short, Givable, its whole purpose is to find new ways and different ways to engage people in giving, with really a focus on making it sustainable for that giver and obviously then the nonprofits that they support, and also to keep them interested, keep them learning about new nonprofits and supporting local charities through what we do. So we started with our programming back in January of 17. So we are now 4 years old to the public. And the first thing that we came up with was this email giving program. And what that looks like is you sign up for a monthly donation amount, and then Givable on the back end, we go through and vet hundreds of different charities that are right here in St. Louis. And then we send an email to you that features 2 of them every weekday. And you have the option of donating to one, both, or neither of them. And your donation amount just draws upon your monthly amount that you've already selected and set up. So it makes it really easy, just pops up in your email inbox. It takes all of 15 seconds to skim it. There's just 2 little blurbs of each nonprofit in your email that you get to learn about. You can always click through and go to their website if you like, but it's very, very fast, very, very easy for people. And we find it's a especially great way for people who are new to giving and don't know exactly where to start, and they want to learn about these local charities. It's a great way to start chipping in a quarter or 50 cents or $1 here and there to local charities. And that idea of collective action is really what's behind it. So obviously, the more people chipping in a little bit of their pocket change, the more we get to give away. So that program, since 4 years now, it's facilitated about $180,000 in donations to local charities. So that's a lot of pocket change of people chipping in a little bit here and there. And I think when you kind of step back and think, does my donation really count? Does it mean anything? When you recognize all these other people are doing the same thing, that's a pretty big number that it turns out to be. So yeah, that was kind of, I guess you could say, our premier giving program, very technology centered, which is, I think, something that Givable is really unique in the nonprofit world, because usually many nonprofits struggle with technology. So we kind of took a different approach of let's fully embrace it and come up with these different ways, to help nonprofits. Mm-hmm. So since then, we've come up with a few other programs. One's very old school, so we went back to things that many people are used to, which is just hosting events. So obviously not much of that is happening now, but hopefully we can get that restarted later this year as things start to open up. But we were hosting monthly happy hours, we're hosting quarterly networking and connection events for people, and those were all with the purpose of raising awareness of these nonprofits and raising funds for them as well. And the most exciting thing that we're working on right now is what launched December. It's called the STL 50/50 Charity Raffle. So what that is really, as the name suggests, it's a 50/50 raffle. So what that means is you buy a ticket for the raffle like you would any raffle, and half of all the ticket sales goes to the winner and half goes to the featured charity. So the idea was to host one of these every calendar month and have a different charity, different winner, different raffle every single month. So, like I said, we launched it in December publicly with a whole bunch of radio, TV ads, a whole bunch of interviews and PR just to try and get the word out and raise funds for our featured charity, which was Youth in Need. and we ended up getting the total pot up to $16,526.
That's great.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, the
I bought
average,
tickets.
yeah, and with the average ticket sale being, you know, $10, $15, people buying, you know, again, not a whole lot, but when a bunch of people get together and do it and get excited about something, and really, I think it was that experience of being a part of a raffle that got a lot of people excited for this. That, you know, we got that number up pretty big, and that's a good chunk of change for one of our great local charities here in St. Louis.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's really great. And I think one of my favorite things about working with Givable is the idea of when you give a little bit at a time, you don't recognize the impact you're making, but when you see it collectively as a community, you get to see that you are actually making a difference. And I think in our daily lives, we don't always get to even recognize the differences we're making until we've reached the end of like a journey. And what's really cool about Givable is that every month we get to see that impact, and every day we get to see that impact. And I know that's like the very community forward aspect of it, but you also work with bringing nonprofits together, like with Nonprofit Connection pre-COVID. How have you pivoted with that aspect of Givable during these times?
Yeah, that's been very difficult because I think, as a lot of people know, there's a lot can happen with an in-person event that you never really, you know, you can't really plan for or engineer for. It's just those random connections and those sorts of things. So yeah, Nonprofit Connection, that idea was to connect nonprofits together, also to get regular community members involved and learn about these nonprofits and really kind of the nonprofit community in St. Louis. Because I think people forget just how big it is sometimes and everything they do for our community. So what we've done since COVID, it took us a few months to kind of think it through and what can we do to facilitate this, which was we started hosting online workshops, and then trying to facilitate discussions within those online workshops to at least still offer a learning opportunity and an opportunity for connection in a virtual space. And, you know, those were fairly successful, and we're going to be looking at doing those, you know, again, this winter and spring, you know, and again, crossing our fingers that, you know, we can actually go back to an in-person in the summer or the fall of this year. But yeah, I think those have been a nice little event that, you know, we started off not knowing, is this something that's needed? Is this, will anybody show up? As I think a lot of people who've ever put an event together before are wondering. And, you know, we started off, I think our first one, we had maybe about 20 people come out, and which wasn't too bad. But then by our last one, and it was hosted at the Bottle Works, the Schlafly Bottle Works in Maplewood, we had about 70, 75 people come. So we were really, I think that was kind of the proof of concept for us that this thing was growing and more people were getting excited about coming out. And as you touched on the community, we were really developing a community with that event. And obviously a lot of things paused, and we're trying to just keep them engaged with email, direct targeted emails to our nonprofit network in the Givable system, as well as doing those virtual events.
That's awesome.
So you kind of briefly talked about it with COVID. Things have been a little bit different and you've had to do some changes. So besides in-person events, how has that affected you guys, and how have you kind of pivoted during this time?
Yeah, I'd say our biggest impact is the events, and also doing in-person networking and the business development, if you will. So one of the big pieces of the email giving program is that workplaces can sign up or groups can sign up. So we would go and speak with someone in a human resources role at a company and talk with them about our program and how, you know, discussing the idea of offering that to their employees as their workplace giving program. And then they can track their giving as a group and that sort of thing. So a lot of that disappeared. I think especially also with businesses cutting back, they were not interested in, and also just dealing with all this extra stuff you've got to deal with, is they weren't interested in even looking at workplace giving at the moment, especially if they were a business that was being severely impacted.
Right.
So, you know, that whole side of things has really dwindled. And on the events, we are finding a ton of success in engaging people and having people sign up for the donation program, the email donation program, going to an event and, showing them in person, oh, here's what it looks like. And,
Mhm.
they actually get to see a person as opposed to maybe some Facebook ad that popped up, or, some email solicitation from a partner of ours or something like that. It was much more impactful in person to discuss. And we would get a dozen or more signups every event that we would go to of people signing up to donate with our platform. So a lot of that just disappeared, which is unfortunate, and we haven't found a replacement for it. But one of the things that we did pivot on was the raffle. So that was an idea that, it was really a little over a year ago. It first popped in my head, actually going to a Blues game and seeing them host 50-50 raffles.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, has anyone ever done this online, gone bigger? And, that things just kind of keep turning and thinking about it in your head. And you just kind of start picking on the problem and doing a little research here and there. And then when everything shut down mid-March, it's like, well, what else are we going to do with our time? So we just totally shifted to put a ton of energy and resources into that. And we started testing it with some very tiny nonprofits in June, I believe it was. And we had 4 different test raffles with really, I call them mom and pop nonprofits. So 1 or 2 person staffs, and, just kind of work through all the kinks for our big public launch in December. And, that's turning out to be, I think it's going to be an even bigger giving program than the email program. I mean, I just mentioned over 16,000 in December. We've never come anywhere near that amount with the email program. I think our largest month for email was 6,000-7,000, somewhere in there, which is significant. But, that's the raffle program's dwarfing it already. It's only been a month. So, it kind of shows that, if you have the ability, not every business does or organization does, but if you have the ability to try that, and go for that idea you've been tinkering with, it was definitely an opportunity for us to do that. And so far, so good.
Awesome.
Awesome.
What's so important about all of the Givable programs and STL 50/50 is you're really creating a rhythm and a consistency to giving. And that's really important because, as you mentioned, sometimes it can feel like your $10 donation isn't going far, but when it's joined with the community, there's a big impact that can be made. So can you talk to us a little bit about what inspired, or how did the idea come about to make this to make Givable a daily or consistent giving program?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is where I've got to give a little bit of history of Givable and make sure people know I didn't create Givable. Because I think a lot of people, especially in the organizations, assume that whoever's leading it at the time was the founder or creator. So I came on board about 2 years, I guess it was 2 years ago now, this month. And but it was founded by a gentleman named Michael Steinberg. So he's been pretty successful, I think, by any metric in the business world and commercial real estate and other ventures here in St. Louis and around the country. And one of his driving factors of, values of life is giving back. And, he is given back millions upon millions of dollars that he has earned in his business ventures. And, his mantra has always been, how do we get more people involved? So if someone comes to him, asking for a large donation, maybe for a capital campaign to, repair an old school gym or something like, along those lines, just for an example, he doesn't want to be the only one putting money in to achieve their goal, even if he is capable of doing that. He wants that, to get a whole community involved, to make it more than that and get more people involved in taking ownership of, whatever the issue or project is that's being addressed. So that was really kind of where it formed, was how can we get more people involved? And they don't obviously have to be, how do we show them they don't have to be, a wealth stature of Michael's, or, even maybe, I think a lot of people think you've got to maybe make over $100,000 a year to start thinking about giving back, to show people that you can give back as little as a quarter, and so the model that was developed really at the time was based around, if someone can afford Netflix, which was $9 at the time, now it's more, but at the time it was $9 a month, then what if we offer them a giving program that's just $8 a month, a little bit cheaper than Netflix? So the idea is to show them a comparison. If you can afford the streaming service, you can most likely afford to give back a little bit. And, with that model of, introducing them to local charities and giving them an opportunity to become involved in a volunteer aspect and also just chip in a little bit of pocket change, that allows more people to get involved and make it, make that giving rhythm like you touched on, and make it habit forming. Because, despite, and this is some national data, many people report, it's around 70% report that it's very important in their life to give back. But then when you have those same people surveyed, not nearly that many actually do give back. Only about 30-40% do. So you're missing about half of that group that says it's important to them to give back, but they don't actually do it. And I think it's kind of like some other things in life. If you ask someone, is it important to exercise? Yeah, it's important to exercise. But then you ask them, do you exercise? That number is going to drop quite a bit. So unless you're in that habit and that rhythm of doing it, it's hard. It's kind of like a human nature thing. You've almost got to train your brain to make it a regular thing and to do it. Then, you miss out on some people. So that was the other thing, is if we can offer these regular programs to get them involved, make that a habit, and make it an automatic of, oh, I've got to give back. Oh, I've got to do this to make sure I'm helping out the community with whatever issue you're most interested in.
Great.
That's awesome. So you guys have reached out to businesses to do collective giving that way, but you also had reached out to schools as well. How is that still going the same? Are there still lots of schools involved, or how is that going?
Yeah, I mean, COVID affected that too. And it was interesting because going into this semester, I guess this past fall semester, we had two of our main schools, which were the KIPP High School, which is just in downtown St. Louis. And then we had Clayton Whiteout Middle School, who are both signed up on board, ready to go. And then I think they realized quickly as the school year started that there's a lot more, despite all their planning, that they didn't quite expect to be as difficult as it was and is. Mm-hmm. So, we had to put the program on pause, and we're looking at starting it back up this semester. And we also have a summer program that we work with a group called Aim High that serves about 100 kids. That so far, everything looks like it'll be on path. But it's kind of interesting. We were actually able to bring on board an AmeriCorps Vista to help work on the curriculum for the school program and also help expand it. So we were thankfully able to receive that grant from AmeriCorps to have that specialist come on board and help us out with that. So in some respects, even though the two schools that we're planning on didn't start, we're actually beefing up and ramping up that program to make it even bigger and better. And to kind of rewind, I didn't really explain it too well what the program is. In short, what we did is we took aspects of the email giving program of you receive an email every weekday that features two local nonprofits and you get to learn about them. And the thought was, well, why don't we offer that to middle school and high school kids so they get to then learn about charities right there in their community. It usually pairs perfectly well with one of their service learning programs where they have to do volunteer hours. Usually it's like to graduate middle school in 8th grade, or they might have something in senior year or junior year in high school, some kind of service learning project they have to do with volunteer hours. So that introduces them to charities right here, that they can become a part of and get involved with. It also, there's a lesson learned in that what they do is they vote on which charity they'd like to donate to each day. And they're given a virtual quarter to donate to those charities. And then we tally up the amount that they've donated as a class or an entire school, depending on the amount of kids that are involved. And we give them that report back. And then the teacher has discussion questions they talk with the kids at the beginning and at the end of the semester, as well as brief discussions each day in the classroom about the charities. So they get to learn about those charities. They get to, get in that habit of giving back. They get to learn about the value of giving back even a little bit. And that was based on, that idea of, if we want to create more givers, we need to start young. We need to teach that value at a younger age. And that's typically not something that schools teach as a standalone project. They're so focused on achieving, math and science test scores and English test scores and reading and all those sorts of things that, a lot of those kind of ancillary skills mm-hmm. and values can get lost or just unable to be squeezed in the day. So with our simple program, it takes, the lesson plan for it is 3 to 5 minutes each weekday. So that's very, very fast for the teacher, makes it very simple for them. to instill, again, this giving rhythm in students. So when they're older, as they age and they become, go into the workforce at 18 or whatever age, they are then thinking, oh, I need to give back, whether it's in the volunteer capacity or whether it's, chipping in a quarter here and there, whatever it might be. So that was the idea behind it. And the results from our evaluations have been very positive. So it's like, if I remember off the top of my head without in front of me, it was 90% report they can identify at least 5 charities in the community that they'd like to become involved with. And then it was 70% reported that they thought their donation made a difference in the community. Mm. So, even again, that quarter, that idea of just a little bit, they were already learning that makes a big difference.
Awesome.
That is so cool. So, what is your guys' plans for 2021 or now this year that we're in? What do you guys have planned for this year?
Definitely, focusing more and more on that raffle. I think we see so much potential in it, especially if we can start doing in-person raffle sales to pair with the online. So it's investing in some, again, technology so that we can do that and everything ties together perfectly. So it's, very seamless for everybody that participates. Some other, related to that, we're looking at, besides just the monthly featured charity, we're looking at being able to offer the online raffle technology to other charities. So maybe they've got a virtual trivia night, or they just want to run a little fundraiser with their group over a week with a 50-50 raffle or another type of raffle. We're working on offering that, and we're actually starting to test that in about a week with a local charity for their trivia night. So we're hoping to be able to offer that as another little standalone effort just for them to, in essence, almost like license, if you will, what we've built so they can use it to raise some extra funds. Besides that, if everything keeps growing, we still have sights on expanding Givable to other cities. We'd probably start in Kansas City. That would be our first target. So, as it grows, I think there's that potential to copy and paste, what we've built here in St. Louis, and get some great partners built up and supporters built up in Kansas City, and again, just get more people involved in giving and getting more money into these nonprofits' hands that help improve our communities.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
I know that you vet the nonprofits that you work with because you want to make sure you're very intentional, and Givable in general is very intentional about who you work with. All of our nonprofit clients are actually nonprofits through Givable. Can you just talk to us a little bit about how you vet those nonprofits, and also for any nonprofit that's maybe watching, how they can find out more information about submitting their nonprofit?
Yeah, it's pretty simple to explain. I mean, there's a lot more behind it, but what I always like to say is we just make sure that nonprofits doing what they're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So you have to be, the first bar is you have to be a 501c3 nonprofit. There are about 4 different types of nonprofits you can be as a designation from the IRS. So that's the one that you think of, helping the puppies and kitties, helping the kids who need, extra tutoring with their homework, those charitable organizations that you think of as like standard nonprofits in the community. That's usually what a 501c3 is. Mm-hmm. So that's the first bar they have to get over. The second thing that we have associated with it is we don't allow any types of nonprofits that are affiliated with a political either issue or even a political party. So, for example, we don't allow like a pro-choice or a pro-life organization to be a part of it, or we don't allow a pro or anti-gun legislation organization to be a part of Givable. And really, that kind of gets to the point of we're trying to not necessarily, stoke emotions and interest in those very, important issues. It's more focused on the giving, and we think if we have those kind of more hot button organizations associated with it, we're going to turn some people off to giving in general. So that's why we remove them completely from the equation, so that it's more focused on organizations that even if you're not interested in, say, helping animals, you just don't donate that day, but it doesn't upset you that you saw it, if that makes sense. or doesn't, invoke, how you think a policy should be addressed in our community. The other thing is we don't allow religious institutions that are only focused on serving people of their faith or having people join their faith. So that would be like a church, synagogue, temple, but a religious organization that's driven by their faith to do something in the community, such as help people who are homeless, or help children in some form or fashion. So I think of like St. Patrick's Center. It's a Catholic charity, but they serve anybody that comes through their door. They're just driven by their Catholic faith to serve people who do not have homes. Or like Jewish Family and Children's Services. Jewish is in the name, but they don't only serve Jewish families and and children. They serve anybody, again, that comes to their doors that are driven by their faith to do so. So those organizations are involved as well. And then it's the typical check your tax returns, check Better Business Bureau, check different legal websites for any kind of pending lawsuits, kind of some simple things like that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Amanda or Lexi?
I don't think so.
Not particularly specifically about Givable, but if somebody wanted to sign up to start giving, where would they go?
Yeah, so if you want to do the email giving program, you just go to givable.org. So that's givable.org. And if you're interested in buying some raffle tickets for one of the charities being featured this month, it's the APA of Missouri. So if you are that animal lover, it's a great organization to buy raffle tickets and support. And that's at a different website. It's STL5050. So that's 5050.com. And again, that program, you see a new nonprofit every month. And with the Givable email program, you see 2 new nonprofits every day. So it's a great opportunity to learn about different charities and also support them. And for the raffle, you might even win the raffle and have a few $1,000s extra in your bank account.
I'm coming for you. Thank you for being here today, Jared. It was so fun to just connect with you and let our followers out there know a little bit more about Givable and STL 5050.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for having me.
So thank you, everyone that tuned in today. Again, Givable, you can find out more information about them at givable.org. Their goal is to really fuel philanthropy in a local way. So we're proud to support them, and thank you for tuning in today. And we will catch you next week for our episode 9 with Olympic t-shirt. Thanks, guys.